guys, welcome back. This is Donna Sharp with Holistic Wellbeing. Thank you so much for joining me here again on another day with continuation speaking from the book How to Create a Strong Family. So thank you so much for joining. I do pray that you guys had a wonderful day today. I trust that you're still remaining safe in spite of anything that we're going through at this moment. As I always encourage, try to look up. Just look up instead of looking out in front of you, because you might be disappointed. So what I'm going to speak on tonight is just a continuation of last night's topic. And yesterday we spoke on learning to earn, the purpose of earning. Hi, Wanda. Thank you for joining. The purpose of earning, learning to earn. What does that look like? So tonight what I'm going to speak on, again, it's just exactly from the book, verbatim, because I want to give you guys some steps on how to create some form of a system with your children. So we're going to speak about the Pegboard system today. And my question to you is, have you ever wondered how to make things easier on your communication with your child and getting them to accomplish and complete the things that you want them to get done, right? Well, the Pegboard system is going to help you in doing that. And I'm going to share just a very brief segment with you on that. But what I'm going to do first is start off by reading you a story, because I'm picking up from where I left off last night. So I wanted to start off with the story first so you can gain an understanding of where we're going with this, all right? So a while ago, our family got together and wrote a long list of all the jobs that needed to be done. When I looked at the long list, I realized that my small 1 or 2 jobs were not big at all, that my parents had been doing almost all of the work. Some of them made me realize how many little things my parents have to do every day. Things like pay the bills, clean up after we leave for school, just little things like that. After I realized that, I was thinking that I would do more jobs than I already had. Before the meeting, I was arguing about how much work I had to do that other kids didn't have to do. But now I realize how much I have done, how much has to be done. Now we have jobs in the kitchen that we each do after dinner every night. For instance, someone would do the dishes, someone would clear the table, and someone would sweep the floors, etc. We also each got a zone of the house that we needed to, as often as possible, take care of. For instance, I have the bathroom. Another child had the living room, and etc. We have all our jobs pinned up on bulletin boards so that we can look at them and see what our jobs are in case we forget. Now, as I mentioned, I'm speaking about different chores and setting up structure and a system in our home for our children. But as I'm speaking on this, I have to still tell you that some of these basic responsibilities, we have adults that aren't even doing this right now. And believe it or not, something as, some people may call it trivial as this may seem, individuals are not accomplishing their fair share. So it's creating a little bit of friction in the household between adults. So although I'm speaking from a child standpoint, I really want you to stay focused and recognize that you can still take these items that I'm speaking on and curtail it to fit the adult lifestyle, because it still does happen, believe it or not. All right. So I'm going to speak on the Pegboard system. I'm going to share exactly what they speak about from this book with Linda and Richard Airy. And they made it pretty clear as to what families are doing right now and how the system worked for them and what part of the system did not work for them. All right. So while creating job assignments for your children, please keep in mind the one thing you have to always recognize is to keep it very simple. All right. The minute you begin to create these fancy things that the children cannot comprehend, you're going to lose them. So keep it very, very simple. There's a KISS method I always talk about. Keep it simple, sweetie. If you've never heard of that before. KISS. Keep it simple, sweetie. Right? So many families tried different things. And here are some of the things that families have tried. They've tried job lists, right? They've tried assignment charts. They've tried circular charts, rotating ones with interchange between one child doing one thing and the other child doing something different. But what really worked the best? And here's what worked the best. All of those things were great, right? But how do we keep it simple but still get the point across of what it is that they need to get accomplished and why. What is the reason for doing this? So what basically happened is it was given the children just three things, keeping it very, very simple, just three simple steps that allow them to get it accomplished much faster, as opposed to the items that I just mentioned. The circular boards, the rotating boards, all these fancy things, then they get a little confused, right? So what this allowed them to do was it gave them a sense of responsibility and also achievement, because they were looking forward to getting these things done, and they knew if it was clearly made to them, they knew, okay, once I get number one finished, and I can go to number two and then number three, right? So they didn't have to think of anything in between. So examples of the three things were just simple things around the house: keeping your room clean, right? Cleaning up after yourself, picking up different areas of the house. And another example would be doing the kitchen. So for example, one person is responsible for clearing out all the dishes, one is responsible for filling the dishwasher, one is responsible for sweeping the floor. What are your three things? Keep it very, very simple for them. All right. So in the zone, by placing them in a zone, so to speak, is what they mentioned, it allowed the children to stay on track. Because when they knew that this was a segment of the household chores that I have to be responsible for, they knew that they can fully embrace and hug and take responsibility for that. So they're not all over the place, right? So it allows them to remain in one zone. But what they encourage in this book is making sure that they stay in that zone for several months. And the reason is that it allows them to improve and get better, and it also helps them to move a little bit faster when it comes to achieving those chores as well, right? So an example of a simple chart, I'm going to show you this chart. I don't know how it's going to show up to you on the screen, but I want to show you the chart that they have in the book. It made things very simplified for them, the zone that I'm speaking about, all right? So I'm going to show this to you. And it basically has the person's name, and there's three columns. The person's name is in the first column. The second column is the zone, and the third column is the area that they're actually working on. So can you see this? I don't know if you can see this. But it's just a simple chart, three columns, right? As you can see, I'll bring it even closer. See that? So it basically says the person's name, and if you have how many children you have in your house. So Jonah, I've never heard of this name before. Talmaj. Very different. And then Noah. Jonah had one room plus. Talmaj had one room plus. And the other person had one room plus. The zone for Jonah, for example, is the front hall and the closet. So it kept them in a particular zone in the house. And for Jonah, the third column, it says clear the table, dishes from the table to the sink. So as you can see, they made it painfully clear, so there's no confusion and clarification as to what they need to get done, right? So they're not always motivated by doing something like this, creating that nice section and zone. It just seems very boring, very trivial. Why do we have to do this, right? But the PEG system is what they found that helped. And I'm going to show you the PEG system. Let me show you a picture of that as I'm explaining that to you. You probably have seen this before, but again, we're going to keep this very simple. So that's the PEG system there. It's just basically a board, right? A 4x4 board, and it has pegs in it, and it has their name. And so each time they accomplish a task, they are actually able to place a peg in the hole. So what does that do? I'm sure you know what that does. It gives them a sense of responsibility that the job is done, correct? So the PEG system allows the whole process that we're speaking about to be very simple and to the point. When you throw things up in the air when it comes to anything that we do in life, people automatically say, okay, let's see who's going to get it done. Let's see who does it first. No one usually or typically wants to take the initiative to get it done and complete it. Instead, you're wondering, well, is so-and-so going to get it completed? Let me just wait and see. Or they don't take the initiative. And so a lot of times when you have a system set up, it prevents any confusion and it offers clarity. Because when people are not taking initiative, then guess what? Nothing at all will get done, right? So the PEG system that we're speaking on, basically, it's done on I think it's 4x4 board that they use. I'm going to show you how they made this 4x4 board that they use to make this peg, right? It's one peg per child. So you have the child's name and then you have all the holes because you want to have an area. So each time they complete a task, right, the job is done. All right. And then the pegs exemplify basically the job getting completed, as we just spoke about, and it transfers the initiative to the child, right? Turning in a report, checking off finish on a project, or allowing some kind of accountability or self-monitoring is also simple way to supervise the work. But the pegboard is that sense of, okay, I just did this. I'm physically going to take this peg, place it in a hole, quite similar to what I mentioned when I say you have a to-do list and you have the check boxes and you check that box off, you know that you've actually successfully accomplished that task, right? So to allow the family system to work effectively, there are a few things that you should basically take place of and keep in mind. You want to make sure that you're very, very clear about their responsibility, and that also shows when they complete it. If you at all don't offer clarity and you're going to assume that they're going to split the responsibilities on their own, children to children, you may never ever get it done. So be very, very clear, right? And the pegboard is what I just mentioned to you. Now, what is the reason for the pegboard? Again, it transfers the initiative to the child. Punishment in as far as incompletion of getting that item done is super, super important because that's how you're going to follow through. If you're going to do the pegboard system and you have no way of following up, then you're going to continue with the same behavior that they started with when you move on to something different, and you wouldn't have accomplished what you're trying to accomplish in the beginning. And you're going to be backpedaling because now you're going to have to reteach them everything again, but now you're moving on to a different task, and that's not going to be a good thing, right? So something definitely to keep in mind. So lack of money earned in doing any kind of chores around the house and utilizing this pegboard system is a great way to keep them involved because they will not perceive ownership of the responsibilities for what they purchase, right? What they do. So what should parents do? Older children, for example, they require different attention than the younger grade school children. So when you have older children, it is recommending that they work outside of the home and they also earn their own money. And you understand clearly what that does when they earn their own money. They have a sense of responsibility and they know that, wow, this is mine. I'm able to do whatever I'd like to do with this, right? And they'll continue doing more because they know that when they get that money, they're able to acquire those things that they not necessarily want all the time, but the things that they need, and placing everything else into perspective. So grade school range children generally can't they can't understand, they can't put these things into perspective, and they're not able to go out and work like the older ones. So this is a crucial age for teaching them responsibility at first, because by teaching them responsibility and self-reliance, then eventually what's going to happen is they're ultimately going to get up to the age as the older children to be able to go outside, work, and do these things on their own so that they can feel all the rewards of their work at home, right? So I wanted to speak with you tonight on just the pegboard system. Again, it's something relatively simple. You can create it yourself. You know, it doesn't have to be any masterpiece. You can pretty much have one that's pre-purchased already from a store. You don't have to create one on your own, because if you don't feel like making one, you have to go get your screwdriver and your board and all these things. You can actually pre-purchase one. That's going to help you through the process. So I would encourage you either way. If you're working with younger children, the pegboard is a great thing to try. There's other ways that you can also involve your older children in the process. But again, I'm going to remind you, although you're working with your children this week, believe it or not, we have adults right now that can't even understand how to follow a simple system while at home. So you might want to change it to an adult format and see how well it also works for you. So that was all I had for you this evening. As if that wasn't enough, I thank you so much for joining me. You can find more about me on holisticwellbeing.com. And there you can find out why I'm so passionate about some of these subjects that I feel really, when it comes together in parts, it creates the whole and really creates the whole person. So share this with someone else if you felt that it was beneficial to you. Outside of that, love it if you love it, and comment if you don't mind. And please feel free to ask questions on your comments. I'll be happy to answer them for you. All right, so until tomorrow, I'll be back again. In the meantime, please stay safe and try to utilize some of these skills if you have a need to, because no better way of learning this unless you're actually involved in doing it yourself and placing everything in action. So Wanda, thank you so much for joining. If you've joined on later on, anyone else, thank you so much for hitting replay and watching the entire video. But until tomorrow, I will be back soon with some more interesting information for you. Have a great rest of your evening. Ciao.